Good morning. I will start this event. Thank you for your participation in this second webinar on funding opportunities for SMEs organized by Silicon Eurocluster project. Some information for you, and we will start in a moment. So this is the agenda. Just a few words on the process. So Silicon Eurocluster is one of the 30 Euroclusters projects that started in September 2022 with the aim of contributing to the European Union industrial policy. This project to personalize the Cascade Funding instrument for SMEs and startups, FSTP, the financial support for third parties. These projects covered 14 business domain verticals. In the case of Silicon Eurocluster, its focus is on SMEs in the electronic area. Overall, Silicon Eurocluster seeks to promote the conditions for SMEs in the European electronics value chain to implement digital technologies and environmentally sustainable solutions, remain resilient in the interconnected, namely to collaboration networks, in order to face possible emergencies and economic crises. In terms of the consortium, so in terms of this project, we have already supported 12 demonstration projects that these demonstration projects have already closed, and with all the financing support provided to these SMEs, and it has been very important for these SMEs to evolve their ideas and their prototypes to commercial solutions. We have currently a support for green vouchers that is still open, that support the integration of green expertise into SMEs, a consulting process that is still open. In terms of the consortium, this consortium supporting this project comes as part of the development strategy of Silicon Europe Alliance, an European meta-cluster dedicated to the electronics and software sector. The consortium involves 10 clusters in the area, each in different countries in Europe, and each cluster is in the area of information, communication, and electronics technologies, covering the collaboration and promoting the innovation within this national ecosystem, so national and regional ecosystem. About the event, as access to financing and collaboration in R&D activities are important aspects within the product service development process undertaken by SMEs. The Silicon Eurocluster project includes in this work plan the organization of 2 webinars to disseminate funding opportunities at the level of European financing programs. This is the second and final webinar of this project, so the project will end beginning next year. So the agenda that we have proposed for this event: next we will have a presentation from Polina Pereira from our national Portuguese innovation agency. She will focus on Eureka and specifically on the clusters for electronics. Then we'll have Afonso Duarte, also from our National Innovation Agency, that will provide information on state of the art of the next course on Horizon Europe Cluster 4. Then also Afonso will detail the European Innovation Council opportunities. This is a very important instrument for boosting and scale up SMEs. And then Laure de Tassigny, that is the project leader of Silicon Eurocluster. She is from Minalogic cluster in France, will provide information on Cascade Funding, on the process and current opportunities. So thank you again, and I will stop sharing, and I will provide. So Polina, please, you can start your presentation.
Hi everyone, it's very good to be here. Thank you, Luis Miguel, for the introduction. And I'm gonna try and share my slides. Just a second. Can you see my screen?
Yes, not yet in
okay,
the
not in presentation mode. Okay, there we go.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So my name is Polina. It's very good to be here. As I said, I'm Portugal's Eureka Deputy Project Coordinator, and today I'm going to tell you a bit about the Eureka Network, particularly about one of its funding instruments, which are the Eureka clusters. And within the Eureka clusters, we're going to talk about the XECS cluster, which we today believe is of your interest. Just a second, the slides are not moving. Okay, there we go. So Eureka is the world's biggest network for international cooperation in R&D and innovation. It started in 1985 with just 18 countries, of which Portugal was a founding member, plus the European Commission. In this slide, you can see the full members in green and also the associated countries in purple. The Eureka network extends to, I'm sorry, my slides are not moving again. Okay. So Eureka network expands from Europe to Singapore, Korea, Canada, Chile, Argentina, and South Africa. Brazil is to become a full member also in November. There was already an MOU signed earlier this year in Istanbul, and the full membership should be finalized in December. I'll also let you the full list of Eureka countries here, so you can access it at your own time. A little bit about the network. This is an intergovernment network, as I told you already, established in 1995 with Portugal as a founding member. It comprises 47 countries, 4 associated ones, and the European Commission. The network supports bottom-up, market-oriented, and international R&D generation. It facilitates access to finance, new markets, by providing decentralized and synchronized funding amongst participating countries. It is open to several types of entities, such as startups, SMEs, small mid-caps, research organizations, and other non-entrepreneurial entities. It has a flexible and bottom-up approach and a global outreach. Since 1985, the network has invested over 40 billion euros of public and private funds through more than 805,000 R&D projects, supported and also supporting 35,000 organizations. This resulted in more jobs created, in economies boosted, in more competitive industries, and in the enrichment of lives both locally and globally. Here you have the Eureka programs. I'm not going to go into detail because you would tire very fast. And for today's sake, we're going to look at the Eureka clusters here, which promote connections between innovators in thematic industry-led communities. Just some numbers. Yearly across Eureka's programs, so here we're going to focus again on the orange, which are the clusters. So on average, we have around 38 projects financed by year, and this translates into around 240 million euros of investment. This is an average. Here you also, the slides will be made available, as you know, so some of this information I added just so you can access it and study it in your free time, and at any point you can contact me for a specific meeting. Now talking about the funding process. Even though we have all these programs, in Portugal, the funding process is the same for all of them. Basically, this is divided in a 2-stage process, let's call it like that. There's a first phase, which is the international phase, where entities apply to the call of interest, whether this is a Eurostars call or a specific cluster call. First phase, you apply to the call of interest in their respective platform. Different programs have different platforms. After you apply, the international evaluation phase takes place. This lasts around 2 months. After that, and if successful, your project is attributed the Eureka label. Only then, with the label, entities can go and start phase 2, which is the national phase. So basically, you need to apply to the international one, you need to get labeled, and only then you're available to go to the national phase. The national phase in Portugal, we have dedicated notices, dedicated calls to support these kinds of projects, Eureka projects. Currently, we have one that's been open for a year now, and it's going to close on the 30th of September. So very soon, but do not fear, because a new one is scheduled to open on the 30th of October, so a month after that. In the national phase, we don't do a second evaluation. So we take Eureka's evaluation or the cluster's evaluations, because different programs have different expert panels. And what we do is we conduct the legal viability financial check. So we check if entities are stable, if they have sufficient economic conditions, if they exist, and so on, so on. This process also takes around 2 months, 60 days, and then you get the decision. Moving now to the clusters in particular. So clusters, as I told you before, are an instrument, a funding instrument of the Eureka network. These specifically focus on, these are large thematic industry-led communities that include experts, leading companies, institutes, and users as well. They look at strategic technology areas, are market-oriented, and aim to solve economic, technological, and societal challenges. Also, a key feature here is that the technical evaluation of these projects is made by industry experts from each cluster. So the people that are evaluating your projects are experts on their fields, each on their cluster. Moving forward, okay. Typical cluster projects are led by the industry. They comprise normally between 3 to 14 participants. This is an average again. Different clusters have different typical projects, but this is more or less how it goes. The budgets range from 2 to 20 million. As you can see, it's a wide range, and typically projects last up to 36 months. The projects have to be beyond the state of the art, and they also must be able to cover the whole value chain. Additionally, they must have clear market potential, and their impacts must be aligned with national priorities of the countries. Here you have, again, this is one of those slides I'm leaving you for the future, so you can check other clusters if needed, but for today's event's sake, we're going to focus on XECS, the last one here, that looks at sustainable digital transformation in electronic components and systems. Forward, okay, so XECS is committed in accelerating the pace of sustainable industrial innovation in the ECS community, so the electronic components and systems. Their projects they match the features and the characteristics I described to you before. And again, they want to address the full value chain and underpin the digital transformation of our economy and society. Here in green, you can see the countries that support the XECS cluster. Portugal is one of them. And my slides are not moving. Okay, there you go. So about XECS in particular, this is a Eureka cluster that supports RD&I in the field of electronic components and systems. The structure is more or less the same. There's public authorities involved, and there are the private sector as well, with enterprises, SMEs, large enterprises, universities, and RTOs. The XECS cluster is managed and operated by INEAS, which is an industry association. And I'm going to just give you some context about this association. And again, these are slides with a bit more information on XECS that I'm not going to explore fully here, so we don't lose our time, our scheduled time. INEAS, which is responsible for the management of XECS, is a non-profit industry association with members from several places, such as large industries, small and medium, research institutes, from the whole ecosystem, basically. The membership for INEAS is free of charge, and successful participants are asked a small contribution based on the funding received. Normally, this ranges from 1 to 1.3% of the total eligible costs. Some of INEAS has more than 550 members at the end of 2023, and these are just some of the main players in this area. I'll leave you the link here as well to their office if you want to explore this a bit more. But just so you know, the composition at the end of 2023 was 50% SMEs, 24% RTOs, 23% corporates, and 4 associates. Moving forward. And again, this is also just a context slide, so you can see where not only Eureka, but XECS positions itself. So here we see that there's a national focus and then a transnational focus in terms of cooperation. And we are right here. So there's a part of our funding that comes from national sources and the other one from European funding. So now we arrive at the stage of why should you participate in the XECS or any cluster projects? First of all, it's a great opportunity to simply benefit from varied and diversified partnership opportunities from a community that's very experienced in the field, and it knows what it's doing. Also, naturally, to boost competitiveness, to accelerate growth, and to shorten time to market for the products or services that are being developed. And also, there's this very good feature that this allows, which is participation in such projects and the whole process of preparing and writing a project. This allows you to get some professional guidance and also mentoring from the members of the cluster and also from industry experts that work with them. Sorry. Okay, currently there is the call for open for Cluster XECS. The call was launched on the 4th of June. And on the 15th of October, so next month, there's going to be a matchmaking event in Hamburg. I'll give you some more information about that shortly. So you have, if you want to apply to this call, to the call for, you have until the 23rd of January to submit your project outline. And then if successful, you're going to be invited to submit a full project proposal. And then again, if successful, the label decisions should be out by May 2025, and the funding should start coming down as of September. I linked you the page for the call here as well, so you can access the full page of the call and any other relevant information on the link below. Again, this is one of those slides where this is the eligibility criteria. This is also based on Eureka standards. Maybe I'll go over them quickly, but you'll have the presentation so you can explore them in more detail. And again, at any time, you're free to schedule a meeting with me or my colleague Rita, and we can guide you or help you in any questions you might have. So very quickly, your project must represent international cooperation in the form of a specific project. The project must be industry-driven, technically innovative, and application-oriented. The consortium, this is a Eureka general rule, the consortium must include at least 2 independent legal entities from 2 Eureka countries, covering at least an essential section of the complete electronic components and systems value chain. XECS particularly recommends at least 3 countries. This is not mandatory, but it's a recommendation from the cluster. The project must involve at least 35 persons years, must be directed at researching or developing an innovative product, process, or service, must have a civilian purpose, and the distribution of effort should be balanced between the partners. About the matchmaking event, this is it. It's taking place on the 15th of October in Hamburg. I will be there also presenting but the funding conditions for Portugal. And you can also register for the event in the link I left you there. If after this you still have many questions, I've also left you a recording from the last webinar XECS promoted on how to submit a project proposal. So recording is available there, and me and Rita are also available by email or phone call if you need to clarify any issues. Okay, so now we go into the Portuguese funding framework. As I told you before, there's the first process of application, which is the international one. And if your project is successful and labeled, you go into the second phase. So now we're going to look quickly at the framework for funding projects in Portugal. Currently, we have this call open, which is PT 2030 CID, Internacionalização de ID. This is the one that will close soon, next week. But as I told you already, a new call will open on October 30th. So you can apply and still have your projects moving forward. All the Eureka projects are covered here, so clusters, network projects, global stars, and the type of funding is a grant. The eligible entities are the same I mentioned before: SMEs, small mid-caps, universities, research centers, and other entities from continental Portugal. So the non-entrepreneurial entities from the autonomous regions of Açores and Madeira are eligible, but only these entities, so the non-entrepreneurial ones, because the companies are not eligible from the autonomous regions for this notice. Looking at specific eligibility criteria, projects must fit into the national and regional strategies. You must have the Eureka label in advance. This is the prerequisite for national funding. The entities must present a balanced economic and financial situation, and according to Portuguese rules, it is mandatory to have either a Portuguese SME or small mid-cap leading the national consortium. So you can have other entities and not necessarily companies in your international consortium, but for Portugal, you need to have an SME or a small mid-cap. Otherwise, you will not be eligible. You can partner up with universities or something else, but the SME has to be there. This, again, I'll leave you just here the definition of small mid-cap, because sometimes this creates some doubts. And you can check it on your free time, because it's one of those European Commission definitions. And additionally, what we do in the phase after you get labeled, that legal viability financial check, here is what we do. We check if the entities have sufficient financial autonomy ratios. Basically, if SME or small mid-cap, you need to demonstrate that you can that you have at least 15% of financial autonomy ratios. And here on the other side, you see the documents that you must prepare along with the national application. So there's a separate national application to the aviso that we mentioned, a copy of the international applications, a copy of the report, a draft of your consortium agreement, and your national technical annex, which is very important to also annex, because there is where you can actually explore and develop what you're doing in the project, because normally you have fields in the application. So the technical annex is where you can specify why your project is as good as it is. Looking at eligible costs, I linked you here the rate, which is our guidelines. So on Article 50, you can check all the eligible costs. So personal costs are included, raw materials, consumables, components, subcontracting up to 30%. Equipment, software, hardware, dissemination of project results, travel and accommodation abroad, and the overheads for this notice are fixed at 7%, including subcontracting. This is a change from the past. Okay, and now we'll look specifically at the co-funding rates. Just a second. Okay, so in Portugal, the co-funding rate starts at a fixed base of either 50% or 25%, depending on the type of activity you're developing. So if it's industrial research activities, we start at 50. If it's experimental development, we start at 25. Then what you have are bonuses. There's a bonus for type of company. So if you're a micro or small company, you get 20 percentage points. If you're a medium, you get 10. Doesn't apply to small mid-caps. And then you have a bonus for cooperation or dissemination. In this case, you cannot have both, only one of them. The bonus for cooperation predicts cooperation between autonomous companies or between companies and other for non-profit organization. And the dissemination of results encompasses, so this can apply to you if you're planning on largely disseminating a result. So in conferences, in technical papers, in scientific communities, all of that. Research organizations or universities have this rate of 85% fixed. So, but for the companies, we can only calculate the final funding rate based on all these features. And also very important, if you're located in Lisbon, the maximum co-funding rate for all the entities, whether you're a research organization or a company, is 40% of the eligible costs only. This has to do with national, regional, and national strategies. And Lisbon has reached a certain level of development that is considered superior to other areas. So that's why At this stage, there's this cap for Lisbon. So if you're in Lisbon, I'm very sorry in advance for these news. Okay, and I leave you this. This is my final slide, and we at ANI are promoting what we're calling Jornadas Eureka, which are a series of information sessions about all the several funding instruments of Eureka. So for your interest, I signaled here the one that we're doing on XECS. There's still a bit to go. It's in January, but you have all the links to register here in the column to your right. So if interested, please register and we'll be there to promote the session. And again, I'll leave you with our contacts. That's my colleague Rita, who you probably know already, and that's me, and we're available at any time. So if you have any issues, questions, please call us or send us an email. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Polina. So just an information, so the slides will be distributed to all the participants in the end of this section. Also, Polina, as our Portuguese national representative, focused some details on our national process. SMEs, so from other European countries that are participating, should contact their national contact points of Eureka in order to detect and have information on the national process for supporting. So we will proceed now with the presentation of Afonso that will detail the status on the call for Digital Europe. So Afonso, please.
So, good morning to everybody. Can you just confirm that you see my slides in presentation mode, please?
Yes, it's okay.
Yes, thank you. So, first of all, thank you for the invitation to be here. It's always a pleasure to come to this meeting, especially in projects like this one, where we see how the sustainability of research and the translation to the market is fundamental. And this is one of the big points that the Commission wants to achieve, and also at national level. So my name is Afonso. I come from the National Agency for Innovation. I'm located in the team of Pillar 2 for Horizon Europe, and I'm one of the national delegates, national contact point for Cluster 4, and I'm also the coordinator of the national delegation for Digital Europe program. Today I'll focus a little bit more in Cluster 4, but if you have any questions on the Digital Europe program, we can talk later on. So just to do a little bit of a zoom out here regarding the digital strategy at EU level, when we speak about funding opportunities and strategies at EU level, we need to look at this slide, at this graphic that lots of you, probably all of you already know. This is the digital compass for the digital decade to 2030. So, and this shows the four big pillars of the European Commission when thinking about the digital decade. So one is focused on skills, the creation and development of infrastructures and their sustainability, the business, and today we are a little bit more focused on the business side here in this meeting, and also the government. So how the governments throughout Europe will take advantage of this digital advances in Europe. And this is a strategy. And of course, one of the most important things about strategy is how to implement it. And when we implement it, this is a very busy slide, but then you'll also have the slide so you can have a look later on how to do this. If you look at on the left side, you have the target. So this digital compass that I just indicated. On the right side, in different colors, you have the instruments that the Commission is setting up in the field to help achieving this digital compass objective. So we have the Digital Europe program. Before it was called DEP, now it's called Digital. This is a program more focused on the deployment of technology. So it's not research, it's a little bit after the research, so it's more on deployment. This is a tool that I will not speak about today, but you have some opportunities for small and medium enterprises, for industry, and for government. This will fund big and large infrastructures at EU level and at national level, and it's very much based on the cooperation between entities in Portugal, in Europe, I'm sorry. Then you have the Horizon Europe here on the right side. This is a program that is focused on research and development. So really, if you are looking at funding research and development tools and innovation, you can go to Horizon Europe, and we'll talk a little bit about later on this. And then the other example I bring on instruments that will support these strategies, the CEF, so the Connecting Europe Facilities. So this is really for strategic backbones and strategic infrastructures at EU level, thinking things like the cable connections for the networks, for example. This is another kind of funding, but all of this, and I just wanted to show this in this slide, that you have almost 20 different instruments, funding instruments in Europe that will support the digitalization of Europe, where you can find for SMEs, for RTOs, university, academia, you can find funds there. Today we'll focus a little bit more on Horizon Europe, but if you have if you have questions on how the other operates and other opportunities, you can contact us as NCPs if Portugal, but if you in your country, you can also speak with your national delegates for Cluster 4 or NCPs. Now, when we look at Horizon Europe, and Polina was indicating here already the Eureka, we have mainly four big pillars: the excellent science here on the left with the ERC, so more blue sky research and research infrastructures. We have pillar 3, focusing on the European Innovation Council and in the innovation, so covering all the path of innovation. And then you have pillar 2, and this is where the cluster 4 is included, and this is the global challenges for European industrial competitiveness. So this is a strategic pillar for the Commission, where the Commission decides what are the 6 big areas of intervention, so the 6 clusters that you see there. And also within each of these clusters, you have different instruments to support and to finance specific bottlenecks at EU level. So when we look at Cluster 4, and Cluster 4 is the digital industry and space. Today I'm here only focusing on the digital sector, not on the space or industry, but you can then go to online to these links that I'm leaving here, that you can find information on this on the other areas. You have different instruments, like we like to call it. So you have on the left side, you have what we call the work program. This is basically a document of around 100 pages that appears every 2 years or every year. The next one, it'll be in 2025, it's just 1 year, where you can find the topics, meaning all the calls that are open to fund specific areas of intervention. And then you have, and these are the rest of the small spheres here on the rectangles on this slide, you have the so-called partnerships. So partnerships are basically, like the name indicates, a partnership between the European Commission, the member states, and industry. So this trio means that they will get together, they join, and they'll decide thematic areas of intervention where it's interest to fund specific things at EU level. So for example, on the right side, you have a partnership on photonics. This is a partnership that includes members, that includes industry and the European Commission. So they really focus on funding themes for photonics. If you are into high-performance computing, you will have the Euro HPC, so high-performance computing here, the member states and the European Commission. And for example, 6G SNS, so this is the partnership for the telecommunications area. And then you have the CHIPS JU, joint undertaking, and this is a partnership for the semiconductors that I'll speak a little bit in a while. So when we look at the work program, this is a work program that includes several areas of intervention within the digital. At the moment, what we had the deadline just this week for the first stage and 2-stage calls for the last topics from 2024. So this means that this year you will not have any more deadlines and no open calls. We are at the moment discussing the work program from 2025. This is not public yet, so I cannot place it here on the slides. What are the topics that will come, and they will be published in principle in January 2025. What I can indicate, and I will leave you the link here that you can have a look, it's the strategic document for 25-27, where Cluster 4 areas are indicated. And these areas is basically a continuation of what was being funded in 23-24, including all the tools in artificial intelligence, the support of the semiconductors area, edge computing with the connection to the semiconductors area and the microprocessing, and also the connection with automotive industry. But you can have a look at this on that document, expecting that in January the calls will be launched and the first calls will be launched and the document is made public. Of course, you can always speak with your national contact point and national delegate. They probably can give you more information on the discussion that is going on, and lots of you are probably involved in this discussion as experts. So we can you can discuss that, but it's a discussion that needs to be done face to face. So now looking and taking into consideration the discussion here today, looking at the partnership focus on the semiconductors, so the CHIPS joint undertaking, this is a partnership between the European Commission, the Industry Association, and the member states. What we have, this is a partnership that is based on the recently launched, last year launched, the European CHIPS Act. So this European CHIPS Act is basically has three pillars. The pillar one that is focused on the European initiative. This is pillar one will be focusing more on the development of research and innovation within the CHIPS area. Pillar two is focusing on the security of supply, meaning we need to build factories, the lab to fab. We need to build factories in Europe, and we need to keep them secure, and we need to ensure that we have the pathway of production within Europe. And then we have pillar three involved in the monitoring and the crisis response, like it happened, for example, in the pandemics or during the war, where we see a shortage of supply. So we need to balance this. So these three pillars basically look at research and innovation pillar one, pillar two, more on the factory level, building the factory, and pillar three on the monitoring of all this process and on the crisis response. When we look at CHIPS JU, this partnership is under pillar one because it's focused on the development of research and innovation at EU level. And the great objective of this partnership is at the moment is to develop and build new infrastructures that will focus on the support of research and development at EU level and national level. So you're going to have the creation of a network of national semiconductor competence centers. Each country will have one. That's the main idea. At the moment, they are called still ongoing, but the main idea is each country will have one. The development of one single design platform, pilot lines, and the development of quantum, and also the CHIPS fund for support of SMEs. When we look in more detail, this is the main organization. So what we have here in the center, we will have one design platform. And this is one design platform that will connect very close to the pilot lines. And we are going to have different pilot lines throughout Europe. This design platform will allow users, and the users can be SMEs, RTOs, universities, industry in general, to have access to EDA tools in a affordable manner and in a fast, agile manner, to have design resources so that they can design and create their products that can then be streamlined to pilot lines and work as one big system that you can take advantage to develop your technologies. Of course, these systems, these two design platform and pilot lines will be supported at EU level, national level by the competence centers that are being set up. And this will be very close in contact with the community, so SMEs, startups, RTOs. And then, of course, we have all the rest of the ecosystems from manufacturers to suppliers, and they will all be connected. This is at the moment being launched. So the first calls were launched this year. So we are expecting to have now in the next couple of years, the appearance of different calls for SMEs and for startups in the area that can start using these systems. So the pilot lines, what are the big ideas behind the pilot lines? The pilot lines, the idea is to create new manufacturing processes in different areas, and I'll show you the different areas in a while, to provide support to SMEs and startups, exchange of knowledge, and to train the workforce in Europe. This was one of the big issues in Europe, to train. We have good education at this level, but we need to ensure that they are included in the market that they produce. So at the end, the great idea of the pilot line is really to allow companies and academic institutions to perform research in the future technologies, not the ones that are actually being developed at the moment, but in future ones. That's where Europe can make a difference. At the moment, we already had 4 calls for first 4 pilot lines. You can see them here. So it's the pilot line 1, 2, and 3, and 4. These are big projects. And when I say big, they are really big. These are the biggest projects in research and development that the Commission has been funded. We are speaking about projects of the order of the billions of euros. All of them are co-funded in 50% between the European Commission and the member states. Yesterday, we had a deadline for this partnership, this pilot line 5. This was in the photonics area. We have different countries in different pilot lines. The results are coming out slowly, so you probably will find in social media and in the TICE.PT webpage already some information of the outputs, but this is still not completely starting. Let's say the signatures aren't done yet, so we'll have to wait 1 or 2 months to see the results of everything. 2 other calls are at the moment on the pipeline to open. This will open soon, and the deadline is in January. And these ones are in the quantum area. So quantum is a very interesting area within Europe. Europe is very interested in quantum. They want to fund different levels of development, and they are focused on developing at least 2 or 3 pilot lines in the area of quantum. You can read more information on this if you are interested. There are several working groups working on this, so this is something that is developing. One of the main things I would like to leave the message here for this pilot line is that these projects are very big. So these are huge projects that probably might not be interesting for you to enter as a participant in the project, but it's important that you are aware of them so that in 1 or 2 years, when these projects start giving services, providing service to the community, you can use them to develop your own research and your own development. So it's important to keep this in mind. So then you have the design platform. This design platform, the deadline was it's also now. Then this will be a platform to support all the community within the semiconductors area in Europe, to have tools for design tools available at affordable prices in an agile manner to everybody. That's the main idea. The calls should be opening later next year for the usage of these services. So keep an eye on this. And this will allow you to have access to tools that would be very hard to get in terms of costs. So the idea is really to leverage the costs. Then, besides these big projects, you also have the research and development, typical, let's say, calls for research and development in the semiconductors area. At the moment, the deadlines are also this month for these calls, but you're expecting to see new calls coming up early next year. We are now discussing under the TICE.PT, we are discussing the future work program, the different areas. So we are still checking what areas are going to open. However, you can also have a look at the strategic research and innovation agenda of the partnership, and I'll leave you here the link, and you can see what are the focus topics and the main priorities that we are discussing at the moment. So final slide, just one last message in terms of what we advise you to do is, first of all, talk with your NCPs for Cluster 4, for Horizon Europe, but for Cluster 4, talk with your national contact points. In Portugal, you have our team, you already know, so we have our contacts, and start thinking about your ideas also with your network, because you never know if your neighbor is producing something that you would be interested in, and you can interact and you can create something new with brainstorming. So I'm just leaving here my contacts. If you have any question, just drop us a line. Thank you.
Thank you, Afonso, for your presentation. I stress again that the slides will be distributed for all the participants in the next days. So we will proceed for the next session. That is also with Afonso, that will focus on the European Innovation Council initiatives and the offers that they provide to SMEs for funding and business scale-up. So, Afonso, you can proceed. Thank you.
So thank you once again. Just to confirm that you are seeing my slides, because I just needed to change the presentation.
Yes, it's okay.
Perfect. So thank you. So now we're going to change a little bit the tone and speaking about the European Innovation Council of Opportunities. So a while ago, I was discussing Pillar 2 and the Cluster 4. Now we are going to move to speak about Pillar 3 and specifically the European Innovation Council. So in Pillar 2, you would have top-down calls. So this means that the Commission decides which areas are interested in which thematic bottlenecks are present in the community and what bottlenecks they want to solve. And in Pillar 2, when we move through the European Innovation Council, one of the big changes is that what you're going to have is you're going to have open calls. Majority of them are open calls. This means that you come up with your idea, you come up with your questions, with your challenges, and you present them so that you are funded. The second very important thing to keep in mind, it is in Pillar 2, and I didn't talk about that a while ago. In Pillar 2, we are speaking about projects that are collaborative projects that typically have a large amount of partners. So we can be speaking about 10 to 15 partners. This means because you are answering a question from the Commission and because you have a large amount of partners, that your company is not, and your idea is not the center of the project. And this changes when you go to the European Innovation Council. When you focus on the European Innovation Council, you are looking at consortium also, sometimes smaller consortium. So you'll have 3 to 4 partners, but the focus will be on development of your project and your idea. And this is a big change when you're speaking about small and medium enterprises and especially on startups, because what you want to do is to have these funds that allow you to grow and to create your idea. And then later on, you'll probably want to go for something from Cluster 4. And I just wanted to highlight this difference because it's something when we discuss with industry, with the small and medium enterprises and with startups, it is a discussion that comes. And sometimes if you are this undeciding, deciding which you go, this can help on this decision. So the big objective of the European Innovation Council, this was a novelty in Horizon Europe compared to Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020. This focus on supporting innovation with breakthrough high-risk ideas. So you really need to be disruptive. You really need to bring something that will disrupt the market in a specific way in your specific area, creating new innovation and pushing these TRL levels higher. And one of the key concepts behind the IC, the beginning was we will fund all the level of TRLs available. So try to avoid the death valley. So the idea really here is to have different instruments, so the Pathfinder Open, Pathfinder Challenge, the Transition and Accelerator, that will cover from idea to the lab tests, prototype, and ready for market. So the big idea of European Innovation Council is really this, to have all this value chain covered. So which areas are we looking at? And we are looking at all areas, let's say, in the innovation field, with special focus on advanced robotics and AI. We go to battery tech, quantum and tech, semiconductors, chip and microelectronics, photonics. I'm just giving you here an example of the main areas in the digital sector, but these are areas that are very prominent in the calls nowadays. Recently, there was a study from an analysis from last year on the key impacts on support to deep tech innovation and the support that TIC provided. And what we saw was that there are 4 main areas of funding. You have the quantum technology and semiconductors, you have advanced materials, artificial intelligence technologies, and the biotech and healthcare biotech. So this is really important because it shows that this area is a very prominent area in the EIC. EIC is really investing a lot of funds for startups and small and medium enterprises in this area. So this is a good opportunity because it's really blooming and it's something that you can take advantage of. So as I was saying a while ago, the main idea of the EIC instrument is really to cover all the TRL levels. If there is always a discussion where will your innovation fit, but you can always speak with your NCP on this area. They are doing this every day, so it's very easy for them, and they are following up the evaluation. So it's very easy for them to help you on this guidance. So thinking about the instrument, so as I told you, you have the Pathfinder, the Transition and the Accelerator. Pathfinder is 2 earlier TRLs, so between 1 and 4. The Transition is between 4 and 6. and the accelerator is between 6 and 9. So I'm just going to give you some information, general information on each of these 3 instruments. I will send you the slides so you can then dwell into the links and have more information on each of them if you would like to. So within the Pathfinder, so in the Pathfinder, this is focusing on funding disruptive technology. So it really needs to be something that is disruptive for the market. It's not something like if you're going to create, I'm going to give you a stupid example, like if you're going to create a new mobile, that's really not disruptive. You need to, that mobile needs to have something disruptive to be accepted, let's say, and to have value for the EIC. Who can apply? Actually, anybody can apply in this in any area, from academia, research organizations, startups, SMEs, and industry itself. You typically have consortium, so you can be the coordinator, but then you need to have a small team of people around from different EU states that can support on development of your projects. You have 2 kinds of calls. So you have the open calls here on the left, and these are the ones I was telling you about, that they are the majority. So it's bottom up. You come up with your ideas, no thematic priorities. You can come up with technologies and innovation in different scientific areas and sectors. There's really no prior selection. And then you have the so-called challenge-driven calls. These are top-down. So this means that the European Commission identified several areas, and there are several in the semiconductors and microprocessors calls on the challenges, where the Commission decided, okay, we need to fund some disruptive innovation in this specific field. So let's give some funds for the EIC Pathfinder here, and they will open once a year at least with specific areas. This doesn't mean that there is a big difference for the open call. So they will be evaluated, they will be analyzed, but there is a specific challenge for them. So like I was saying, we have here, any topic is accepted. We have funding up to 3 million, 100% rates. We have annual calls, typically in March. We have a huge participation rate. So the success rate of EICs it's not very high. However, this is because the competition is very strong. The evaluation is a little bit different from Cluster 4 and Pillar 2. You have to do a pitch. You have to write a small proposal. Then you have to do a pitch. So it's a different kind of selling points that you need to produce. Then for the challenge and driven calls, you have predefined challenges. You have funding up to 4 million euros. So this is a little bit higher than the past. You have calls typically in October. The participation is not so high, but this is because it's focused on a specific area. And each challenge has their own rules. So then you need to identify and check one by one which rules you need to follow in this case. Then you have the EIC transition. So when you go a little bit higher in the TRL level, here again, any organization can participate: academia, research organizations, startups, small and medium enterprises, and industry. These calls are restricted, and this is important to keep in mind, to proposals that are based in past projects. So it means that you need to identify projects that got EIC Pathfinder or European Research Council proof of concepts, and you need to build on top of that project and on top of those results. They can be yours, so you might have had in the past a EIC Pathfinder or ERC proof of concept, and then you can just follow up, or they can be from another colleague that is interested on participating in evolving that innovation with them. So this is very important because it's really an eligibility issue for this kind of topic. The type of calls in this case are only open calls. So again, bottom up, no thematic priorities defined. And again, we are speaking about technologies and innovation in different scientific and technological areas. So again, the specificities of these calls: you have funding up to 2.5 million euros of 100% rates. The calls are typically in September, and the EIC is very periodic, so the calls are basically always in the same time period. And you have the participation of single entities or consortium up to 5 partners. So in this case, you really don't need, if you want to go alone, you can go alone with your idea and apply for it. Then the last one is the EIC accelerator. So this is higher TRL, so you're really getting closer to the market. And this case, and because of this, this is focused on funding startups, SMEs, and small mid caps. So this is, of course, if you think that you have an innovation that already went from a prototype area and now is getting to the market, you are not anymore just in a university or in a large company. You already have your own startup and a SME or a small mid cap. So this is the funding to help you to progress in that area. So in that case, you're going to have, again, challenge-driven calls and open calls. The open calls are up to 2.5 million grant components, and you can have 0.5 to 15 million investment component. The challenge-driven calls, 2.5 million for the grant component and 0.5 to 15 million investment component. So this is really a different kind of instrument where the Commission also wants to enter in the development of your innovation and your company. So this is something that then you need to see case by case and also talk with your NCP to see how we can help you improve your proposal and see you take the most out of this opportunity. So I'm leaving here the contacts of the NCPs and the national delegates for the EIC. So you have Ricardo, Sofia, and Alexandre. So if you have any questions, you can contact them. If you are from another country, you can also contact the colleagues from your country. You have here the QR codes that leads you to the national contact points for Horizon Europe in the funding and tenders opportunity, where you can find the contacts of your specific national contact point. So when did this? I'm just finished. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Afonso, for your presentation. So we will jump to the last presentation that will be made by Laure from Minalogic, the project leader from Silicon Eurocluster. She will provide information on the process and opportunities on Cascade Funding. Please, Laure.
Thank you very much, Luis Miguel. Do I share my slides or do you have them? I don't hear you anymore.
Can you use your slides, please?
Okay.
It's better to share and control it.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, not in presentation yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's
great.
fine. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. So I'm going to present the Cascade Funding methodology and open calls. So maybe you have already heard of it. Maybe you even have already benefited from them. So I will explain the methodology, the main advantages, and then I will give you some examples of open calls. So in practical terms, how does it work? The European Commission selects consortia of transnational partners. So that could be research center, clusters, large companies who are organized in consortia funded by the European Commission. And the European Commission kind of delegate the management of funds to this organization. And so they can redistribute part of their funding. Approximately, it's about usually 20% of the total budget. And they redistribute this money to third parties, in particular companies, via simplified calls for projects. This third-party funding method is more and more used in a number of European programs. So I've put some of them on the slide. So it could be Horizon Europe, could be the COSME program, or even Eureka, and so on. You have also other programs that are using Cascade Funding open calls. The Open Commission objective is to make it easier to reach beneficiaries who are less accustomed to European funds, such as SMEs, for example. And they are actually using intermediaries who are closer to the ground, like clusters or research centers, so that the application, the open call process and the applications are tailored to the beneficiaries who are less familiar with European calls for projects. So who manages the calls for projects? As I've already said, most of them are major European research centers, such as the CEA, Fraunhofer, for example. That could be also clusters like Silicon Eurocluster, for example, as Luis Miguel said at the beginning. We are 10 clusters, and you have a lot of other Euroclusters who manages this kind of calls, and that could be also large companies. So who is this funding aimed at? So mostly SMEs and startups, but not only. It depends on the call for projects. You can have also large groups, universities, researchers, and even individuals who may be eligible. In what form you can find this funding? So it's most of them are grants. It could be up to 200,000 euros per partner, but it really depends on the open calls. I would say that in average, most of the calls are more around 60,000 euros per beneficiary. That could be also via vouchers. Well, I would say small, very small tickets. For example, to access test equipment, to have technical support, advice, training, internationalization vouchers for to cover travel expenses, for example, to go on a business fair abroad. So you can have a wide range of different grants to different services. If, for example, what could be the activities and services that could be funded? You can have innovation and demonstration projects. So you will find the big amounts of Cascade funding would be for the demonstration and innovation projects in general, but you have also feasibility studies, market studies, as I've already said, internationalization to cover travel costs, advice on intellectual property, support to fundraising, transition, ecological transition vouchers. That is really, really broad. It's really broad, the different services or activities that can be funded. And it really depends on the open calls. The topics which are covered are also really broad. It depends on the European collaborative project topic. So, for example, Silicon Eurocluster, it's about electronics. So the topics can usually are more or less directly linked to digitalizations, but not always, and they are focused on technologies and or application sectors. The eligibility rules can vary as well depending on the project, but we have rules that are imposed by the European Commission that are compulsory, and you have rules that are decided by the partners that manages the fund. So the main rules are that applicants must apply alone or as part of a small consortium, 2 or 3 partners in general. The applications must be short. It's not more than 5-10 pages in English, of course. And the projects must be of a short duration, usually between 3 and 18 months. And the projects should start quickly as well. Eligible costs are generally internal staff costs. Could be also purchase of equipment, travel expensive, or other specific services. The evaluation of proposal is not like the big deal of traditional European projects, I would say. It's really simplified. It's managed directly by the consortium. For the big calls, it's delegated to independent expert evaluators. And for the small tickets, it's usually managed directly by the consortium partners. And the call for projects are open online for an average of 2 months, but it depends on the calls. And of course, double funding is not permitted. So in summary, what are the advantages of Cascade funding? So as you might have understood, it's really more accessible funding compared to other traditional European projects. There is a really simplified administrative procedure for participation, and these calls are really tailored to SMEs. The grant amounts could be up to 200,000 euros per beneficiary. The success rates are generally really high because there are fewer applicants. And well, it enables you to enter European projects, European networks. It could be the ideal first step to before the traditional European projects. And a big advantage also is that the grant does not count towards the minimis rules, and there are no equity rules as well. The disadvantages, because you always have some disadvantages, is that these calls are really not visible at all. It's really hard to have a complete vision of what is open and on what topic. So you really have to ask your clusters or your development agencies, innovation agencies close in your own countries. And they could search for the calls that would be suitable for your projects. I'm going to show you a few examples of open calls, Cascade Funding open calls, which are open at the moment. So the first one is the Silicon Eurocluster open call for green financial support. So it's a small ticket, a small voucher of 3,600 euros. We have a budget for 25 SMEs. Well, it's almost closed now. It will close on the 27th of September. We still have some budgets, but we will soon run out of money. And this call is to finance green transition of SMEs that could be on a wide range of services, such as decarbonization strategy, circular economy, and so on. And you could have like a support of consulting, audit, engineering. And it's only meant to fund SMEs needs. I have put here some other examples of calls on different topics. Some are really wide, some are really focused on using special pilot lines or using special and targeted infrastructures that already exist. It really depends. Maybe you can have a look in more details. You have the link on all the on the slides. So I'm not going to go into details, and I think I've talked too much already. So you have them here, and so it's really you have all the topics linked to digitalization, to electronics, and I will let you have a look in more details. Luis Miguel, if you want.
Okay, thank you, Laure, for your presentation. So we are reaching the end of our event. Sorry for this. Okay. So I just now we have a small opportunity for questions. If you have any question to put to the presenters, please raise your hand. Or we have no questions on the chat, but if you have a specific question, please use this opportunity. Yes, so William Xavier was asking that who to contact about these last calls on the open calls. I think the slides provide the links to the projects, and then
Yes.
they provide information on how to interact. So the contact is via the project, I think.
Yes, and Luis Miguel, if I can add something, we are aware that these Cascade Funding calls are not visible at all. So do not hesitate to contact your cluster, your clusters you are a member of, or your innovation agencies, or the national contact points. Sometimes they can have the vision of what will be open soon, even when it's not online yet. And you have to get a bit prepared because, as I've already said, they are not open during a long time.
Yes, it was a question on the issue of the open calls, the calls for Cascade Funding. There is not only one site to where we can request information. So the best is to go to the cluster. And what is your opinion, Laure?
Well, when it's not opened yet, yes, contact your cluster or your innovation agency you are a member of, and they have the vision of what will be open soon. Or we can't be exhaustive, but we have a clear vision of, and we know most of the programs. So. So the best idea is to contact your organizations that support you, and we will have a look in detail on what open call will be suitable for your project.
Okay, so thank you. So that the issue is to contact your cluster in your region, and that you are associated, and ask for additional information on opportunities. But I realize that sometimes it's not easy to detect this proliferation of small opportunities that are managed by these projects. But using the contacts of your clusters, regional cluster, it is the best approach for reaching information on what's happening in this field. So if there is no more questions, I think there is no more questions in the chat. So I have to thank you all the speakers and all of you, all the participants, for your time. I hope we provide valuable information, and will support you and also incentivate you in try to submit and to connect with other entities in your ecosystem to take advantage of the open call and financing support. Thank you all. The session is closed. Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good
Thank you
day.
very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.